Hi again. Here we are to continue with our To-Do app, and we're working on adding the date here. So far we've got our date to display in our Add To-Do view controller, but now we need to actually store the date with core data, okay? And so we have a few things that we need to take care of. I'm going to go over here to our To-Do app XC model data, okay? This thing right here. You remember this, right? And in here you can see we have an entity called to do. And this entity has 3 attributes. It's got completed, name, or it's actually got 2 attributes, completed and name. And we want to add a 3rd attribute of date, but it doesn't exist here. Okay, so let's add that right now. So I'll click add item, and I'll make a new attribute called date. And I'm going to find the item on the list here that's most appropriate as the type, and then you'll see that there's one called date, right? So I'll choose date as the type, and then so that looks good, right? And if you recall before, in order to use this, we had to actually generate a class file, which was actually, it's these 2 files here at the top, right? And these files represent the entity, okay? And so the thing is, when we updated the entity here and we look back over here, you can see, well, this looks the same. It's a to-do item. But if I look at the second file, right, you can see that this one has 2 properties, right? And actually, we just added a 3rd property, but it doesn't exist here, right? So we need to update this file, and we can just write the code in it, but just to be safe, why don't we delete these 2, right? There's not that much code in there anyway, so it won't break anything. We'll just delete them, move to trash, you guys are gone. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our XC model data, and we'll click on the entity, and then we'll choose editor, create NS managed object subclass. Okay, so we'll click on that, and then we'll add it to our to-do app. And to-do is the entity that we want to create. And we're going to save this, and there's a little weird thing here. It says use scalar primitives, right? Use scalar property for primitive data types. So I checked this box the first time we did it because it makes it easier to work with the Boolean, right? The Boolean gets treated as a Boolean rather than an integer or a number or whatever it is, right? If you don't check this, then the Boolean actually gets treated as a number, and then you have to convert it to a Boolean. So I check this to make it a little bit easier. The problem, though, is if we check this here, then the date is going to be treated as a different type of value than an NS date. And if we uncheck this, then the date can actually be added as an NS date. So, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Either the Boolean X normal or the date X normal. We can't have them both for some reason. I just don't know enough about this to really explain that one, but this is my experimentation. That's what happened to me. So I'm just going to leave this checked, so everything else that we did is going to be fine, and we won't have to change any of the old stuff. It will just turn out that we'll have to convert the date object, the value in the to-do property into a date object when we use it. So that's not a big deal, but you'll see we'll have to do a little conversion for that. Okay, and it's all hinges on this thing. Okay. So anyway, so I'll click create, and then it's going to make the 2 properties here. Okay, so that's pretty good for us so far, right? So this guy looks the same as before, but if we look at the other file, you'll see that it's now added a new property, right? And it's called date, and that's the date that we made. And you'll notice here, instead of NS date, it says NS time interval. And this is the thing I was talking about with the scalar checkbox, right? So, if we check the scalar checkbox, then this is going to be an NS time interval as opposed to an NS date object. And if we uncheck it, it could have been an NS date, but then this thing's going to end up being a number or an integer. I think this ends up being NS number instead. So, like I said, I just chose to do it this route, okay? So anyway, so we're doing okay so far. We're going to run into another problem that we'll need to solve. So right after we've done this, we can save our app, and then I'm going to test it again, okay? So I'll click the Run button. And then it loads up, and then we get a big error, okay? And it's this kind of thing somewhere in app delegate, it's got some problem down here with abort and I don't know what, right? And if we look at it here in the console, it's gonna say, what does it say here? It says, what does it say here? It says there's an error in here that's actually kind of readable. The model used to open the store is incompatible with the one used to create the store. Okay, so the model used to open the store is incompatible with the one used to create it, right? So essentially what they're telling you in here, and you could read a little more of this. I know there's kind of a lot there, but if we look at it carefully, what it's going to tell us is that, or what it's trying to tell us anyway, is that originally, our model used, this the to-do model used 2 properties, and our new model has 3 properties, and one of the properties doesn't exist in the database, okay? So, the easiest way to fix this is to do this. We're going to go back to the iOS simulator, and then go to the simulator menu up here and choose Reset Contents and Settings, okay? The other thing you could do is you could find the app in here, the To-Do app that you create. I think mine is called To-Do app, and if you just press on it with the mouse and hold down, it'll do this thing that'll let you delete it. So essentially, you just want to delete this guy. If you choose Reset Simulator or Reset Content and Settings, it'll just delete all the apps there. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to delete this app and its database. So we'll lose all the to-dos that we've added, but now when we launch the app fresh, it'll create a brand new database that will be compatible with these 3 properties, right? So that's what we want to do. Let me see if I can do it this way. I'm going to delete my app. So I'll say delete, you're gone. And again, you could do it up here too, reset content. If you do this, it deletes all the apps, okay? So we'll do that. And then, to stop it from, editing, like when we do this to stop, and they're all shaking and they have a little button. If you want to stop them, you can use Command-Shift-H or go to the hardware menu and choose home. That's like you're clicking on the home button, okay? So anyway, so we'll do that, and then we'll test our app again. Oh, there's our app, right? So there's no to-do items, but now I can add a new to-do item. Hello, right? Hello, there we go, right? And then I'll say save, and there's our new to-do item. Now, the to-do items here don't have a date. So right now, the date is nil, like we didn't set it yet. So we're going to have to take care of that too, okay? So I'll do that in the next video. So now that we're all set up, we can just kind of start working on To-Do Manager to make it work with the date, okay? But anyway, that's what we need to do. Essentially, like if you update your model, like your entities, then you're going to have a problem with your database. So you're going to have to delete the database and start all over again, right? So, I mean, not start all over on your project, but, just restart the database essentially, okay? So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope that is helpful for everybody.